people have been talking about
Ang ganda ba yun?
Example, or that's the way
Ay! Mali yung count! Oo nga!
Oh my God!
Arriba! Arriba! Happy 5 de Mayo!
Happy 5 de Mayo po sa inyong lahat. My God! It's Wednesday evening po, 6 p.m. here in the U.S. Actually, here in the East Coast, especially in New York, in New Jersey. So, good evening po sa aming mga dearest USA at sa Pilipinas naman. Kaya aga-aga, I'm sure a lot of people are still sleeping. It's 6 a.m. in the Philippines. So, good morning po sa inyong lahat sa aming mahal na Pilipinas. Happy 5 de Mayo.
Yes.
Oh my God, sayang wala tayo sa labas ngayon, no? Nag-happy hour. Okay, Jcas, and
Yes! And good morning po sa lahat ng mga Filipinos and non-Filipinos in different time zones, in different dimensions, in different continents, in different galaxies, in this whole wide universe!
We are so hyper tonight because grabe, Jcas, ang ating special guest, my God. Thank you, pinaunlakan tayo, di ba? Nang, Diyos ko naman. Sinta ka, para lang tamang-tama yung sasabihin ko, the Consul General of the Philippines in New York.
Yes,
diba?
kaya nga nakapolo ako ngayon kasi nga.
Ako din kailangan
respeto
diba?
po ang bisita. Well, lahat naman ng bisita natin, pero ito, ano siya, ranking, ganyan, ambassador.
Yes. And it's our first time, actually, it's our first time to have a former journalist / diplomat. Diba? My God, General Consulate pa.
Malalaman natin
ang
stories niya.
Kagalang-galang talaga. Pero, syempre, kailangan medyo prim and proper ba tayo dapat ngayon, Jeka?
Galang!
Galang!
Parang di bagay? Ano ba yan?
Yes, oo. So, guys, I hope you will watch us and, of course, get to know the new Consul General. Yes. Diba? Ng aming embassy ng Pilipinas.
Embahada ng Pilipinas dito sa New York.
Dito sa New York. Gusto kong Tagalogin Embahada pala ang embassy, no? Akala ko kasi, ano ba? Embassy, embahada. Okay, embahada pala. So anyways, before po tayo mag-umpisa, we would like to say hi sa mga unang nag-comment. Of course, we would like to say hi to Eleanor Suarez. Good morning. Hello. Taga saan ka, Miss Beautiful?
Yes.
Ang ating beautiful friend, si V. Hi, V. Malapit na birthday
Hi,
niyan.
from Canada. Tita Maha, hello.
Yes, Tita Maha. Laarni Mantilla Rosilio watching from Libya.
My sister is here. Mary Joanne Castro Villacora, hello.
Oh, hello.
Ate.
Your sister is from Chicago, right?
No, this is the third sister, the one in the Philippines, my Ditse.
Aba talaga naman. Ako, Mary Joanne Castro Bicaro. Hi, Jcas. Ito pala yung kapatid mo pala. Sino? May Patriarca? Oh, okay. Where? I can't see.
From Tripoli, Libya!
Oh,
diba?
God, mga taga-Libya.
Bago yun, sa paningin at pandinig natin na nag-log in sa show.
Charlie Diamante. Alam mo kasi, maraming fans dito si Conjen.
Kaya nga, oo.
My God.
Mga hakot ni Conjen.
I'm so excited to know better, the other side of him. So, umpisahan na po natin. Si Leonor pala, Suarez is watching from Laguna. Aba, ang aga-aga mong nagising, ha?
Mm-hmm.
Sige, salamat for tuning in. So, anyways, I will introduce na po ang ating special guest for tonight. Okay, our special guest for tonight is a career diplomat with rank of Chief of Mission Class 2. He started his tenure last January 2021 in New York. He was a journalist for 17 years before joining the Foreign Service. He had served in various capacities in the Philippines and abroad in the past 22 years, like in Washington, D.C., Tripoli, and Baghdad. He's also the recipient of Gawad Mabini, one of the highest awards of the government of the Philippines can bestow upon a Filipino diplomat for initiating the public-private partnership that led to transfer of consular offices to shopping malls across the country. Guys, let's welcome and get to know the other side of the new Consul General of the Philippines in New York, Mr. Congen
Elmer Cato.
Kumusta po? Good evening po.
Hello po.
Kumusta po kayo?
Okay naman.
Okay na ba? Aba, masyadong para kailangan namin magkagalang-galang.
The other side, nakakatakot yata.
And then, the other side, kasi para makita talaga ng mga, since you're the new Consul General, so they wanna know, like, kung makulit ba, very approachable ba, di ba, friendly ba, ang bago nating Consul General, di ba, na pwede bang lapitan, anytime, syempre, diplomat kasi usually, ang notion ng mga tao, especially yung mga Filipinos in New York, in New Jersey, syempre parang, it's so hard to reach out, especially, like, Congen ba naman, di ba? Parang they think like untouchable and unreachable. So we wanna know, syempre, kung ano talaga, sino po si Elmer, si Consul General Elmer Cato. So sir, teka po, mag-hi muna po kayo sa lahat ng mga nanunood. Especially, my God, maraming nanunood from Libya.
Yeah, magandang gabi sa ating mga kababayan sa Libya, where I came from just a month ago. Mga kababayan natin sa Pilipinas, good morning. And our kababayan here in the northeastern coast of the United States, good evening.
Okay. Sir, ano pong iniinom nyo? Kasi meron kami ritong we have a protocol.
Oo nga, ano sir ang
Yes, 5 de Mayo ngayon. So, ako, dapat nga Ano po yan?
Alam mo, nasa office ako, so bawal. Unusual iced tea because I don't really drink.
Iced tea. Nako, masarap pong iced tea.
Oo,
Favorite ko yan.
Masarap din, pero dahil nga happy 5 de Mayo, akong bahala sa inyo. I have margarita at may lemon. Buo pa yung lemon.
Hindi niya hiniwa po ang
Wala
lemon.
pa. Oo, walang time.
Hindi pa. Oo, walang time hiwain. So, okay lang yan, Jcas. Ako naman I'm having the usual, my wine. Oo, my Merlot. Cabernet. This is Cabernet.
Ayan.
So, sir, we have to welcome you, ha? Oo, ito po yung amin. And then we will have a photo op. Magpipicture tayo. Okay? So, we have to welcome you po. Okay. Sa sambayan ng Pilipinas po at sa aming dearest USA, let's all welcome the new Consul General, Mr. Elmer Cato.
Welcome to Over a glass or two. Cheers po!
Cheers po!
Amis.
Sir, isa pong picture.
Ang tapang? Okay.
Ang tapang okay.
Tapang ng timpla ko,
1, 2, 3.
Cheers. Buhay.
Ayan, cheers pa. Cheers. Nako, sino po kasama nyo ngayon dyan? Alam ko nasa office kayo. Si Mary, who's with you?
Marian is outside.
Hi,
Si
Marian.
Arman is here. Paulo, I just saw a few minutes ago.
Aba,
And some other members of the staff.
talaga naman.
To give support.
Opo.
Oo
We're so
nanonood sila
excited.
ngayon.
Actually, ito po, sabi ni Drew Nage, I'm so glad to see our former beloved CDA Sir Elmer Cato being interviewed live, watching here in Benghazi, Libya.
Benghazi,
Libya. We miss you, sir.
Drew, I miss you too.
Oh my God, sir, ito, tapos na tayo mag-cheers.
Anong oras doon, sir? Sa
Oo nga
Libya?
pala, anong oras po?
So it's past midnight. So,
Aba?
Nanonood pa rin sila. Wow. Alam mo, sir, I notice, you have a lot of people from Libya are saying, how much they miss you.
I
Wow.
miss them too.
Yeah, so how long did you stay in Libya po?
I was there for 2 years, from 2019 to 2021. I left actually March 29. I got here March 30.
Oh,
Parang 1 month pa lang akong dito sa New York.
oh my God, 1 month pala. So what did you do in Libya?
Well, I was head of mission. I was the Charge d'Affaires there for 2 years. So yung trabaho natin then was to look after our kababayan there. Now we have approximately 2,000 Filipinos still working in Libya despite all the
Oh
challenges
wow.
that they've been facing. In fact, when I got there, 5 days after I arrived, war broke out. So that made it a bit more exciting. And then we also had COVID. So lalong naging challenging yung assignment natin doon. But we survived and
Oh my God,
I
yeah.
made it here.
So, sir, wait. So, 2,000 Filipinos only in Libya, right? During that time. So, syempre naabutan niyo yung COVID at that time. So, how many, was there a lot of Filipino people that was affected, I mean, infected with
Doon,
COVID-19?
so we had two challenges. Ano, yung first, yung outbreak ng Civil War. As you know, since 2011, nung matanggal si Muammar Gaddafi, yung Libya was plunged into this cycle of violence and counter-violence. And from a high of 20,000 Filipinos, probably even more, bumaba yung mga bilang ng ating mga kababayan doon to just 2,000 when I came in.
Oh,
And
wow.
most of them are nurses and other frontliners. So first challenge was yung gera. We're fortunate that we all were able to make it through with just minor injuries. Tatlong kababayan yung nasugatan sa mga artillery exchanges,
Wow.
etc. But it's COVID that where we really got hit hard. Before I left, 150 plus kababayan, most of them nurses and other hospital workers, were affected by COVID. They tested positive, most of them recovered, but we
Mhm.
lost 6 or 7. May namatay after I left,
Oh,
unfortunately.
wow.
Most of those who we lost, like those here in New York, were frontliners.
Oh.
Wow. So,
Paano po
sir,
yung mismong building ninyo nasa gitna rin po ba ng war? Is it in the downtown city rin po?
So we're in one part of Tripoli. Hindi naman kami inabutan nun, but of course yung nature nung labanan from 2019 to 2020 involved drone warfare. No, that was the first time where drones were really used by both sides to attack each other. So yung danger nandun. So even if we were not in the immediate vicinity of the fighting, we were within artillery range. So the embassy was within artillery range. We were not certain if there were targets around the embassy that could just be hit by missiles. So yung ginawa namin noon, nilagyan namin ng malaking Philippine flag yung bubong ng
oh my
ating
God.
embassy para at least ma-identify ng mga drones. Uh, Alam nyo kasi yung Philippines is only among a few countries that stayed in Libya. We maintained the embassy there. Yung mga ibang bansa, nagsialisan yung mga diplomats nila, lumipat sa ibang lugar. But tayo, we stayed. So we're just among 14 probably countries that
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
Ayan yun,
Oh my
exactly.
God, yeah. So,
yan
sir,
yung
what
plan.
was the reason? Sir, what was the reason why I mean, the Philippine embassy decided to stay? Pwede namang umuwi na rin, di ba?
Because we have people there, we
Okay.
have kababayan who we have to look after. No? So that's the main reason why our embassies in Libya, in Iraq, in Syria stayed when most other countries left. Because
Okay.
ganun ka importante ang ating mga overseas Filipino workers. Diba?
Wow.
That's why we really take the risk to be there to look after them. And lead them out of harm's way if needed. So, yun nga, nakita natin sa Libya, yung gulo noong 2011, 2014, and some minor disturbances up to 2019, nandun tayo. So, if they want to go home, we would assist them and bring them home at government expense.
Oh, wow. And sir, di ba, I think that was one of while we were doing your research and we saw from your bio, there was an incident that there was a bomb inside your hotel or beside your hotel. Tell us about that story.
That was in Baghdad.
In Baghdad, okay.
I served in Baghdad before I served in Libya.
In Baghdad naman. Oh my God, di lahat nyo na. Okay.
Is magulo din. Diba?
Magulo din, okay.
So I was in Iraq from 2015 to 2018, and this was at the height of the onslaught of the Islamic State, yung ISIS. So nung dumating ako doon, yung violence involved mainly terrorist bombings. So every day, around 5 terrorist bomb explosions take place in Iraq, targeting civilians and others. So yung sinasabi mong na bomba, that came 5 days after I assumed as head of mission of the Philippine embassy there. So I thought I was in the most secured location in Baghdad. It's a 5-star hotel where I was initially billeted, kasi first few days pa lang ako dun. So for one reason or another, nakapasok yung suicide car bomber at nag-detonate siya malapit sa lobby. And the explosion killed, I think, 6 to 8 individuals and wounded several others. I was on the 8th floor when the bomb exploded.
Oh my God.
And, swerte lang ako. Walang sumunod na bombing or walang mga terrorists na pumasok sa hotel to take hostages or probably even kill hotel guests. So, swerte lang tayo dun siguro.
Wow. But sir, I'm curious, no? Of all places, who assigned you to those 2 countries? Like, I mean, they can pick anyone, but why do you think the government pick you?
Well, I actually volunteered,
Oh, wow.
I was a journalist before I
Yes.
became a diplomat, as I've said. So I guess it's part of my background, di ba? That somehow pushed me to go to these places that, typical diplomats would not want to be posted in. So I guess it's part of the adventure or part of the coverage or parang, you just want to chase the story.
Oh, okay.
So definitely, walang iba nag-volunteer, kayo lang, sir.
I think so.
I would surmise. Wow. Very brave.
So wait, sir. So may nag-volunteer again when you left? There's another Consul General?
When I left Iraq, somebody else replaced me. Of course, hindi pwedeng iwan na bakante yung head of post station. Same in Tripoli. A batchmate of mine in the Foreign Service came in to take over and watch over our kababayan there.
Wow. So sir, sabi pala ni Gladys Negosa Abrina, he went over and beyond his duty. Service exemplified. Salute, CDA Elmer G. Cato. Wow. It sounded like everyone loves you.
Oo nga.
Sa dalawang country, ang galing naman. So, paano po kayo? Ito, I'm just curious. Siyempre, parang there's very few Filipinos, diba, who lives there. So how do you solidify the relationship, the community? Like, lagi kayong may fiesta, may mga dinners, may every church, yung mga ganon, every church may mga buffet, di ba? Usually ganon, pagka sa maliliit na country.
It's completely different because Iraq and Libya, along with Syria, are the 3 countries in the Foreign Service na conflict zones, challenging posts, ba? Life there's normal, because maraming problema, like as I've said in Iraq, it was the terrorist bombings at the height of ISIS's presence in Iraq until they were defeated a few years later. But still, there are bombings taking place there. So life in Iraq was really not normal. In Libya, the war also prevented us diplomats at the embassy and our kababayan from really, leading normal lives. But in both countries, there are safe areas. Parang sa Iraq, the Kurdistan region up north is safe for our kababayan, and most of them are actually there. Sa sa Libya naman, yung mga kababayan natin sa Benghazi were okay because the war was not near them. It was near the capital in Tripoli. So, yung mga talagang naapektuhan nung last civil war were our kababayan in Tripoli because we had to raise the alert level to 4. And when we do that, restrictions are put in place. Kaya merong mga kababayan na hindi nakauwi, nakapagbakasyon at makapiling yung kanilang mga pamilya. Kasi despite this challenges, the role of the embassy in both countries is to make sure we look after our workers. So what we have been doing is to really go out, reach out, explain to our people why we are in that kind of situation. We converse with them. We go where they are. We went to hospitals in Tripoli. We attended mass regularly and then just interacted with them. We want them to feel yung concern ng embassy. We want to earn their trust. And the best way to do that is to show that you're there with them. The same when I was in Iraq, where I served, as I've said, for 3 years. Talagang kailangan mong lumabas sa embassy. Hindi pwedeng nandun ka lang sa loob. Kasi nga, nasabi nga ng mga kababayan natin sa Iraq na, ay, may embassy pala. Diba? Because they were
really?
not present.
Oh, they were not aware.
Most of them are not aware, but yung others may know, but they don't know what we really could do for them. So that's why we also utilize social media extensively. So we're thankful there's Facebook, there's Twitter, where we could communicate with them directly. And I think in both countries they felt our concern because we were there 24/7 and we would issue alerts, especially during the fighting in Tripoli. Even early morning, we would be issuing alerts to tell them to be careful because we're monitoring fighting in certain areas. So, na-feel nila talaga yung presence, which is what our job really is, di ba? If we're supposed to be successful in looking after our people, kailangan maramdaman nila yung presence natin.
Yung presence mo. Yeah, true.
Pwedeng nasa embahada kami, nakakulong, walang pakialam. Hindi, may pakialam tayo. Yun yung role natin here in New York. May pakialam tayo sa ating mga kababayan. We really have to look after them. And
sir, question. Yes, sir. So, syempre, you have to go out, no? From the embassy. You cannot just stay inside, right? So, since it's a war country, so do you have to bring gun all the time with you?
In Iraq, because the threat of IED explosions is there, we have armored vehicles to use whenever we venture out. But when we venture out, we have to follow strict security protocols. In Iraq, for instance, we could not go out without security escort. So the Iraqi government provides us with security. So whenever we go out, may convoy yan, may truck sa harapan namin and likod na may machine guns. So parang yun, napapanood yun
parang sa movie.
Parang action movie.
Yung mga nasa movie.
Ay, curious po ako. So, kasama niyo rin po yung immediate family ninyo pag sa Baghdad at saka sa Tripoli?
No, Baghdad and Tripoli are non-family posts. We cannot bring the pen.
Okay. Ayun.
And also Syria, kasi delikadong mga lugar yan.
Oo nga kasi isipin mo pa sila.
Yes, that's right. Going back to Jesse's question kanina, in Iraq, we have to wear body armor.
Oh my God, ang bigat nun.
Mabigat, di ba? And we have protection also. Actually, yung nangyari when the bombing took place, it was my fifth day in Iraq.
Ang malas
So,
nyo naman, sir.
if you go to Iraq at that time, I first came there in 2011 and I saw how heavily militarized the Iraqi capital was. Talagang daming tangking sa daan. Makikita mo everywhere you go, every corner, may military presence. But when I arrived, parang nabawasan. And of course, Baghdad is so big, di ba? So even if you say there are 7 terrorist bomb attacks per day, hindi naman namin nafe-feel. So if you compare it to Manila, if the embassy is Malacanang, for instance, pwedeng may sumabog sa Navotas, may sumabog sa Marikina, may sumabog sa Paso. Hindi namin naririnig, hindi namin nafe-feel. But every day, nakikita mo sa mga reports mo ilan yung namatay and all. So ako, naging kampante na. Parang sabi ko, wala naman eh. So I had body armor. Then, I brought it with me. It was given to me by a Taiwanese friend. So, dala ko from Manila. And, of course, mainit, mabigat. So, on my 5th night, tinanggal ko. And then, meron kami lumang pistol.
Okay.
Kalawangin pa nga eh. Sir, para lang, just to be, to be sure, yan, for your protection. So, on my 5th day, I really felt safe. Wala naman nangyayari. Ano bang sinasabi nilang napakagulo dito sa Baghdad? I could not feel it at all. Diba? So parang wala. So tinanggal ko na yung body armor, iniwan ko sa embassy. Yung kalawangan na baril, iniwan ko na rin. So I went to my room on the 8th floor. And before midnight, I just heard the sound of what I knew was an explosion. Kasi parang yung manig yung yung bed di ba? So, yung vice consul sabi niya sa akin, "Sir, pag narinig mo yung US embassy," and the US embassy is across the river, the Tigris, and nakikita ko siya from my hotel room. Pag narinig mo yung US embassy na may sound, parang PA system nila na nagsasabing take cover, stay away from the window. Loop yan eh, ulit-ulit. That may incoming mortars or rockets. So, narinig ko nga yun after the explosion. Narinig ko na, stay away from the window, take cover. So, syempre, journalist ako. Will I take cover? Hindi. I went to the window, opened the curtains, just trying to check. Asan yung mga missiles? I've never seen one. Ay, wala. Sabi ko, wala. So, anong nangyari? Wala, di ba? Parang, pero I knew something happened. So, I stepped out of my room, went to the large balcony on the floor, and true enough, may sumabog nga. I could see smoke and flames rising from the lobby area downstairs. So sabi ko, tinamaan yung hotel. Oh my God. Sabi ko, my 5th night. Tapos may di ba? May ganito na. And we had about 20 Filipino hotel workers in the hotel. So my worry was, nako, don't tell me namatayan na yata ako. And it's just my 5th. So, parang, when I was inside the room, parang inisip ko, tama ba yung decision ko nag-volunteer? Parang sinisisi ko pa yung sarili ko. Parang, Elmer,
nag-volunteer. Yeah.
Nag-volunteer ka pa dyan. Mamamatay ka dyan, di ba? Yung mga ganong...
Yeah, of course.
Those thoughts were rushing through my head, di ba? So, but eventually, it turned out okay. But that was the first time, diba, in my life that I really prayed so hard.
Oh my God, I'm assuming, no? Grabe.
Yeah.
Pero sir, as a journalist, sir, syempre, was there a time that you have to make sure that you have to write it and publish it? Kasi journalist ka, you're so used to it. Are you guys allowed to do that? Mga diplomats?
Yeah, but we're allowed to. But we're not just allowed to work with media. We cannot be with media at the same time, but we could, of course, write our own books about what we did when we were posted overseas. And a lot of our colleagues have actually written books about their experiences. So those are works in progress. Actually, I was hoping once I get there, I would have time to finish those books that I've started.
Oh, you're writing a book. You're writing a book. Books.
Plural
books.
So,
Ilang books po?
About Libya, my experience in Libya, about Iraq, my experience in the Foreign Service, and also as a journalist. Marami rin naman ako adventures when I was a journalist.
I'm assuming, no? Pero sir, wait. So, why? Okay, as a journalist, and you were a journalist for 17 years, right? Journalist for 17 years. So, what made you change your mind? Why did you transition from journalist to foreign service?
Well, actually, yung foreign service first came to mind nung ano. I think when I was in high school, when a friend of mine told me she wanted to be a diplomat, and because her mom was working with Senator Letty Shahani, who also was a diplomat. So it didn't occur to me until I was in Saudi Arabia as a reporter for Saudi Gazette, and I covered the Philippine Consulate General there. And nung nandun ako, I was working closely with the vice consuls, and they convinced me to, explore yung possibility na mag-join ng foreign service. Kasi sabi nga niya, reporter ka, magaling ka magsulat. Ganun lang naman sa foreign service, parang reporter rin kami. We write reports on a regular basis, but yun nga, yung audience namin is mas maliit, di ba? So, kung konti tayo makakabasa ng mga reports namin, minsan, isang tao, dalawa, or so. In when was this? In 1996, I was national editor of Today newspaper, and my publisher, my publisher and editor-in-chief then was Foreign Affairs Secretary Teodoro Locsin Jr. He was my boss, and he's my boss now. So I was in charge of the APEC supplement, and somehow, for one reason or another, I saw this announcement while I was attending church, and hindi naman ako religious person eh. So pag nagsisimba ako, nandun ako sa labas. Hindi ako pumapasok eh. Diba? Wala ako sa labas. So, nung sa labas, nandun sa harapan ko yung poster. Posibleng hindi ko siya makita eh. Diba? Okay. At yung poster announcing the 1996 Foreign Service Officers Examination. So it was right there in front of me. So, sorry, kita ko, ito nga pala yung sinasabi sa akin nung nasa Saudi ako. So, maybe I should give it a try. And I did. So, I passed out of, I think, more than 1,700 who took the exam. I was among the around 20 who made it. So, ayun. But I didn't join the DFA right away because I was pirated by an Indonesian newspaper. So I went to Jakarta to be executive editor of a newspaper there. At doon sinabi sa akin, pumasa ka, but you have to go home and take the second part of the examinations. Yung FSO exams na tinatawag namin is one of the more difficult examinations sa civil service. Hindi lahat naman nagtitake papasa dyan. Medyo hirap talaga siya. So, I was okay in Jakarta, but sabi ko, naisip ko, dapat may fallback ako, di ba, in case something happens. So I went home and took the oral examinations, which is part 2. And I passed the psychological exams, which is part 3. So, okay lang. I continued with my contract in Jakarta, and then nagkaroon ng financial crisis, yung Asian financial crisis. And parang nalugi rin yung kumpanya namin. So, I decided to go home and accept my appointment as a foreign service officer. So that's how it started.
Mga ilang taon po kayo na to, sir?
I think I was 32. Medyo matanda na ako. Pumasok ako.
Wait, that's older? 32 is
Yeah, kasi
older?
yung maximum age during that time was up to 35. You can join the foreign service, but only up to 35 years old. Pag 36 ka na, hindi ka na pwedeng tanggapin. Unless
So
you're
pwede
ready.
ba tayo, JCAS?
Pwede pa tayo ngayon. Because in the past few years, we
Mag-time travel tayo.
age limit. So kahit 50 na kayo, pwede pa. So we lifted the age limit a few years ago. So pwede na
Oh,
kahit.
they did.
Wow.
So yung feeling namin dyan, kasi, I think the FA decided because, we really need people with experience. So let's say, yung mga military officers natin, they retire at 55. And ang daming training, ang daming experience and skills na meron sila na kailangan namin sa DFA compared to a 22-year-old college grad na papasa and so we would prefer taking in Filipinos with good skills, experience, and education para ma-enhance yung ating career foreign service corps.
Okay. So, sir, who appointed you to be the ambassador in in New York naman?
Well, I'm not ambassador.
I mean, I'm sorry, to be the consul general. I'm sorry, the consul general.
Mga embassies natin are in Washington, are in capitals.
Oh yes, in
So in some countries we have an embassy and we have consulates general, like here in the
Okay.
United States. So the assignment was given to me by our home office in Manila. So it was the Secretary of Foreign Affairs who gave the order for me to transfer from Tripoli to New York. Siguro naawa sila sa akin, but Tripoli is okay. I mean, it's challenging, but wala akong problema. And given the choice, I would have stayed to see how Libya would transition. So when I left, medyo nag-improve yung situation sa Libya. And for the first time since 2014, they have a unified government. Dati dalawang faction yan eh. So gusto ko sanang makita yung pag-rise uli ng Libya and see how the Philippines could explore yung mga opportunities that are available to us, especially since hindi nga tayo umalis. And what's good about Libya is yung paano nila tinitingalahan yung mga kababayan natin. They really respect and admire our kababayan, especially our nurses and other frontliners. Because nagkakagera, hindi umaalis yung ating mga nurses sa kanilang mga stations. Kuminsan, yung mga kwento nila sa akin, sir, nasa loob na ng ospital, naghahabulan, nagbabarilan, pero nandun sila to take care of the sick and wounded. And the Libyans never forgot that. So that's why despite yung mga challenges, that they have been facing, they continue to stay there. So, nagtataka nga yung Manila, bakit ang titigas ng ulo ng mga kababayan natin yan, nagbubumbahan na ayaw umalis? Because they have really good reasons to stay. Diba? So, hindi sila sinasahuran, pero nandun sila because they've developed this bond na hindi man nga bond of friendship, parang family na yung turing natin sa isa't isa. So, if I was given the chance, I would have wanted to stay a little longer.
Hindi pa pwedeng So there's really no choice na umayaw dun sa pagka inassign ka or plead like I would want to stay a little bit more? Parang ganon.
You could ask that. Actually, the Filipino community in Libya petitioned na ma-extend ako. Diba? Yung parang nag-petition sila and sent this to the President and to Secretary Locsin. I was supposed to arrive here January, but I was extended for a couple of months. And somehow I was able to do what I was supposed to do. May mga unfinished business na natapos ako. Yung last na nagawa ko before I left was yung pag-locate ng remains ng 4 na Pilipino na nakidnap at pinatay ng ISIS noong 2015. So, at least before I left, na fulfill ko yung pangako ko dun sa mga families in the Philippines na I'll try my best to locate their missing loved ones. And we were able to do that with the help of Libyan authorities. At magkakaroon na sila ng closure and hopefully in the next few weeks, we would be able to send a team from the National Bureau of Investigation to exhume the remains and identify and repatriate them.
Oh, pero sir, okay, so March 2015, right? So you just arrived in New York. no, 2000, sorry, 2021 of this year, March,
Sure.
right? What about in Washington, D.C.? Because I know you were also assigned in Washington, D.C.
Bago mag-Baghdad
When-
and Tripoli, you were
Yes,
already
bago
in
magdad
Washington.
or...
I was there for 2.5 years.
Oh,
I was in
grabe,
Washington.
sir. Well-rounded. Okay.
Pero boring doon eh. Di ba?
Ah,
Parang boring
talaga?
sa Washington.
Why?
After 5, wala na, di ba? Mas
Yeah, true.
challenging yung Iraq and
I'm
ano.
sure.
Well, actually, when Iraq, I was the public diplomacy officer in Washington when the our ambassador in Baghdad resigned. So Manila was looking for a replacement, and syempre parang attractive siyang bigla eh, ba? So parang tingin ko kasi in Washington, hindi ko nakukuha yung fulfillment eh. Parang may kulang, ba?
Okay.
So you know who I asked first? It was Secretary of National Defense Delfin Lorenzana, who was then the Veterans Affairs representative in Washington. So pumunta ako sa kanya sa fourth floor. I was on the third floor. Then I asked him, "Sir, may vacancy sa Iraq. I'm interested. Do you think I should go for it?" And Secretary Lorenzana said, "Go." So that also convinced me to apply for the position, you know. So in a sense, compared to Washington, yung Iraq gave me both personal and professional fulfillment. Diba? Also compared to when I was here first in New York from 2003 to 2010, 7 years ago with the Philippine mission to the United Nations. You know. So parang when you
In UN, okay.
So when you compare yung job, parang sabi ko, we're in the United Nations most of the time attending these meetings and then sending reports. When we have the General Assembly in September every year, we have to be there to, listen to world leaders or their representatives and then write reports to Manila. But, hindi ko maano, how have I contributed to a more peaceful world? Diba? Ano yung, parang hindi ko nakita yung saysay nung trabaho ko doon and even in Washington, diba? So, but in Iraq, diba, parang nakita mo yung fulfillment in the way yung kababayan natin would thank you for just doing something for them, diba? Yung mga trafficking victims na rescue natin, yung mga may problema with their employers na naayos natin, yung mga hindi nasasahuran na sumahod dahil nakapag-intervene yung embassy, yung mga walang pamasahe na gusto umuwi, na naiuwi natin, yung mga namatay na naiuwi rin natin. So, yung thank you na yun, parang okay, parang yun yung nagdadrive sa atin to do more to serve our people eh.
Okay.
Parang sa iba maliit na bagay, but pag natulungan mo yung kababayan, lalo feeling niya hopeless siya. Yung situation niya walang pagtutulong. Yung natulungan mo and then yung pasasalamat niya, that's really something And the one incident I would not forget in Iraq, for instance, we lost 13 Filipina in a fire at a hotel. So 13. We don't lose that many people in one incident. So we flew to Erbil in the Kurdistan region and we had to identify all 13. So yung naano ko doon is yung parang di ba pag nagko-convey ka ng condolences or you inform the family of namatay siya, hirap na, di ba? Yung kami tatawag and you break the news that your loved one just died. I had to do that 13 times. I had to call the families of all 13 women. So parang, di ba, paano mo sasabihin yun na 13 yung isang anak, parang problema na eh, di ba? Parang ang hirap. But we had
13, yeah.
But, yung namin doon is we really assured the families that we would do our best to bring them home. And in the Middle East, you cannot really repatriate remains in a span of a few days. sometimes it takes several weeks or several months bago maiuwi yung remains ng ating mga kababayan who die in Saudi Arabia or in other places. But in this case, we were able to really work closely with authorities in Kurdistan to allow us to bring our kababayan home in just a matter of 7 days. So, yung ano ko dyan, yung nung naiwi na namin, naipalipad na yung mga remains, we rewarded ourselves. So I brought my team to a shopping mall. So makapunta kami sa KFC. Walang KFC sa Baghdad eh. So nasa Erbil lang yun. So nilapitan kami ng group of Filipinos. And then they just said, "Sir, thank you po." Sabi ko, bakit? Kasi naiuwi niyo po yung ating mga kababayan, yung 13. Sabi ko, makasamahan niyo ba sila? Kilala niyo? Hindi po. Pero mabilis po yung nagawa niyo. Naiuwi niyo sila ng mabilis. So, thank you po. Diba? And then, okay.
Oh, wow.
So we went to KFC and we ordered yung bucket, you know, and the Filipinos who were there, yung crew, the Filipino crew, said, "Sir, ito po yung ano namin sa inyo." Yung, they gave us this brownies and I think also yung Pepsi. Ano. So, you know, we did order the brownies and yung Pepsi. Hindi ho kami na ho yan. Sabi ko, no, we'll pay for it. Sir, napakalit na bagay lang po yan for all the things that you do for the Filipino community here. So, yun nakaka-touch yung doon. So, pag narinig ko yan, di ba? Parang gusto mo pa, you want to do more. So, parang alam mo na, you know, they really need you there. Yung relations that you establish with them, parang sa akin hindi sila kliyente eh. Di ba? Parang you have to look at them as family as well eh. So tawag nila sa akin, tatay. Sa Libya, they call me tatay.
Naging tatay ka na.
Parang humukhang tatay. Sabi ko, kuya lang.
Kuya lang. Correct.
Diba?
Pero
Kuya
sir,
lang.
kuya lang. Pero sir, okay, so from there, di ba, of course, I'm sure you missed them so much, right? At saka sir, sa totoo lang, while you're telling all these stories, alam mo, I just realized na, wow, I thought, I'll be honest with you, my notion when in terms of diplomats are more like, you know, like attending galas and going to different, you know, like parties and just mingling. But I didn't know that the responsibilities of being a consul general is that intense. Pero anong plano niyo naman po dito sa New York naman? So, do you have any expectations? Siyempre, magkaiba eh.
Oo, alam po namin na
diba?
hindi po kasing exciting doon ng
I
Baghdad.
know, it's not that exciting.
Unless Jessie gawin natin exciting, guluhin natin si Conjen sa sa embassy.
Nako,
Diba?
lagot. Okay.
It's exciting. Yeah, if you compare New York with Libya and diba? And Iraq. So yung dalawang bansa siguro pwedeng barangay captain ako doon given the small Philippine community. But here in New York, I have to look after the well-being and interest of more than 300,000 Filipinos. So, medyo mag-level up ako. Parang mayor ako, di ba? Parang
mayor na. Baka naman congressman, Conjen, hindi mayor. Mayor na. Okay.
So what my responsibilities are, of course, yung primary mo dyan is to look after the Filipino community here in the northeastern seaboard, all 10 states under our jurisdiction. It's the delivery of consular services. We need to make sure that we are responsive, we are able to meet yung consular needs ng ating mga kababayan dito. Passports, mga documents that need to be consularized, mga dual citizen applications. That's one aspect of our work. As a consulate, we're also responsible in promoting the Philippines as an investment, trade, and tourism destination. That's part of our work too. And yung nasabi ko kanina, looking after the well-being of our kababayan. So we have issues such as COVID-19, and also most recently Asian hate. Asian hate is what greeted me when I arrived from Tripoli on March 30. So parang my expectations here was that New York would be a bit more relaxing, di ba? Parang kung sa Libya, sabi ko, kung sa Libya, uh, natutulog ako ng 2 a.m., 3 a.m. siguro, this time I would be able to get 8 hours of sleep, di ba?
Oh, wow.
I'm getting 8 hours, but slowly I'm making the adjustments.
Mm-hmm.
So, I've realized how heavy the workload is here. In fact, yung trabaho mo every day, di ba? When you wake up, you check emails, you check messages, and then you go here, mga meetings, then you have to go through reports coming in, and then the reports that you have to send to Manila, then you have to look after yung services sa baba, ba? And then ang daming meetings. Ngayon ko lang na-realize nakakapagod pala yung 3 Zoom meetings in a single day, but that's
Yeah.
part of the job.
Mm-hmm.
And yung major challenge natin ngayon would really be Asian hate. Okay? And
Yes.
it's really unfortunate na in the past weeks, the surge has been continuing, and we've been seeing more violent acts being taken against Asian Americans, of which we belong. Yung a few days ago, there was this Taiwanese American who was attacked with the hammer.
Oo nga,
Yeah.
dalawa
Yeah,
sila
true.
tapos
That's
hammer,
so
and
true.
it's just sad watching the videos, like there's no sense to it,
Ano
know.
nangyayari
MJ
dito? Di
is
ba
here.
bakit nagkakaganyan? So even I was really disturbed when the attack against Bill Macari took place
Yeah.
in March, di ba? Yung parang how could you even attack an old woman, and then yung napaka-violent, di ba? Parang ganun may gagawin, parang nanay mo na yan, parang lola mo na yan, di ba? Parang
Exactly. Yeah.
hindi ka tanggap-tanggap sa atin. And then yung kay Noel Quintana, who was attacked with a box knife, or parang na-slash
Yeah,
ito.
exactly.
Yes.
Yes.
Oo, yun din.
Bakit nangyayari ito? So we're trying to understand bakit. And of course, it's most likely COVID related. And we don't think we are being targeted deliberately because we're Filipinos. No, I think we're being targeted because we're Asians, and
We're
there's this
Asian. Yeah.
mistaken perception that we're from that place where the virus originated. But the attacks are mostly spontaneous, unprovoked, and I'm convinced that mga mental health issue related to mga attacks na to di ba? Yun, ano natin, kung matino yung pag-iisip mo, hindi mo gagawin to. And
True.
we the latest data we have, yung reports na pumasok na sa us, about 10 incidents of anti-Asian hate crimes that involve Filipinos. And we're glad that more of our kababayan are starting to report. Yun yung dilemma ko when I
That's
first
good.
came. Bakit ko konti to? Diba? If the data provided by the NYPD is correct, there should be more. And
Yeah.
we're ang daming cases na hindi nire-report. And I guess it's because we really don't take it seriously unless it's a violent
Mm-hmm.
incident like that what happened to Noel Quintana and kay Bill Macari. But yung mga incidents where mga verbal insults, go back to your country, there's no place
Yeah.
for you here, you
True.
don't belong here.
That's so
We tend
true.
to be dismissive of this. Diba? Parang wala lang naman yan ganun lang naman yung sinabi sa akin Diba? But we need this information so we could assess
Mm-hmm.
how hate crimes are impacting the community. Kailangan makita natin yan. So, for instance, diba, nung tinignan ko yung data kanina, two of the 10 incidents took place near Times Square. But syempre, dalawa pa lang yan. But kung maraming information yung natatanggap namin, maraming cases, then we'll be able to really assess and say, most of the incidents are taking place in Times Square. So please, when you're in the area,
Mm-hmm.
be extra vigilant. Baka ma-target kayo ng ganito. Or we could say, many of the incidents take place in the subway.
Oo
In
nga,
the
sir.
particular
Grabe,
train line.
no?
So, we could issue an alert to kababayan for them to be aware that this particular subway line could be dangerous for them. But
Okay,
or
awareness, yeah.
we could share the information with NYPD and say dito yung dito yung cases. This is where it is. So can you please add more police officers there so that they'll be more visible? So ayun yung gusto sana natin mangyari. And we're glad that our kababayan are starting to respond. And of course, it's not just reporting that we want them to do. We want them to, to take more concrete action in terms of preventing yung mga situations like that. So if they witness a crime, a hate crime, they should report to authorities. They should try to document if they could disrupt, disturb, or whatever. Then they should do that. And in fact, there's one case 2 weeks ago where one kababayan of ours, a passport applicant, nandun siya sa may pen station, bumibili dun sa isang food cart. Nung nagbabayad siya, nakita niya yung vendor na may sinasabihin siya, don't you dare touch her. So sa side nung nakita niya yung may tao, and pagtingin niya, susuntokin siya. Nakailag naman yung kababayan natin. She's a 32-year-old caregiver. Nakailag siya, and then, 3 men came in and shielded her. At tinulak yung attacker. Diba? So, yun sana yung gusto natin mangyari para somehow we could prevent this more incidents like this. And we're working with authorities, we're working with members of the Filipino community and trying to come up with training sessions on bystander intervention, for instance. So we hope to be able to do this. And, do this in Tagalog, hindi English, because marami sa ating mga kababayan dito would better understand, di ba? Tagalog yung explanation para, they'll be more aware and know what to do when they find themselves in situations like this.
At kailangan po namin talaga yan, Conjen, kasi like me and most of the Filipinos here in New York, we are all commuting at sa subway po ako. And kaya very vigilant ako, nako. Sino yung katabi ko? Hindi ko tatagalin mask ko para hindi makita na Hispanic / Filipino looking ako. Diba? Ganun talaga. Tapos, ayun nga, nakakatakot nga siya. But yan nga, kailangan natin maging vigilant din, ano?
Sobra.
At saka, buti may tumulong doon sa nakwento ninyo. May 3 taong tumulong. But most, walang tutulong sa'yo eh.
True.
No?
Tsaka gusto ko po yung na-mention nyo kanina, Conjen, about, let's say you will have probably like a training, like probably self-defense training and things like that. That will be awesome. Imagine.
Ayun pala, tsaka Conjen.
Masyadong, di ba? Baka yung self-defense, maging masyadong confident yung mga tao.
Oo nga kasi.
Baka
Wait. Kasi, Conjen, sugod kayo ng sugod eh. Ako duwag ako. Ano ba, lalaban ba ako? Ano ba? Tatakbo ba ako?
Sabi ko, kung nandun ako sa lugar kung saan in-assault si Bill Macari, anong gagawin ko? So, I'll try to disrupt. Eh, di ba naglabas ng knife yung attacker?
Yes.
So, maghahabol yan. Sabi ko, paano ba ito? Hindi pa naman ako fit. Hindi ako makakatakbo. Di ba makakatakbo yung masaksak? So, I'm sure many of our kababayan are thinking of this. My parents were here in New York in the 1980s and up to the early 2000. Yung sabi nila sa akin when I first came here, sabi niya, pag nagsasubway ka, huwag mo tignan yung mga katabi mo, di ba? Huwag kang titingin. Kasi baka may tinignan ka, may mga sensitive dyan na baka anong gawin sa'yo. And then, kung may nangyari, may nakita kang natumba dyan or what, huwag mong lapitan. Kasi baka ikaw yung pagbintangan, di ba? So most, I think, not most, but many of our kababayan still have this mindset, di ba? Na parang, ayoko na makialam dito, baka maabala pa ako.
Baka pati ikaw masali.
Pati ako madamay, di ba? So, kailangan maayos yung mga, yung ma-address natin yung ganong klaseng, pananaw na naman tumulong in any other way. So, if you witness an incident taking place, pwede mong tawagan yung Crime Stoppers, give information din to help identify the perpetrator at para mahuli rin yan, di ba? And we're happy naman na marami sa mga involved dito sa mga Asian hate crimes ang nahuhuli naman ng mga police. And as I've said, isolated incident, but we cannot really predict where it would happen next. Pwedeng naglalakad lang ako dito sa Midtown at bigla akong sapakin, di ba? Pwede mangyari yan. So even outside, I was telling our colleagues here at the Philippine Center, sabi ko, let's try to accommodate those who line up outside. Di ba? Kasi early morning, yung mga may appointment ng 9 o'clock.
Ang haba ng pila. Oo.
Hindi mahaba yung mga. You have 5 to 10 na nandyan. So kung pwede pasukin na yan.
Nung last time kami pumunta, mahaba ang pila. Medyo mahaba ang pila. Oo.
Mahaba. Hindi naman naabot ng 50 siguro yan.
Ay, hindi. Mahaba ang pila for me is 15. Ganon. Parang 15 to 20.
Anong avenue ba umabot, Jess, yung pila?
Hindi naman. Mahaba. For me, mahaba na yung pila na yun.
Sabi ko nga, yung concern ko doon, baka sapakin nung, di ba, habang nakapila doon, sabi ko, mahirap yun. Tapos nasa harapan pa ng Philippine Consulate. So, we need to be sensitive to that. So, ayan. So, we don't have a lot of incidents taking place, but based on statistics, US-wide, we're number 4 sa mga natamaan ng mga tinamaan sa Asian hate incidents. The first are the Chinese and I think the Japanese, Koreans, and then may mga Vietnamese rin eh. So I think we're number 4, number 5. So yung mga target are mostly East Asians. So if we look East Asia, di ba?
Oo nga, the chinky eyes and the...
Yeah. So hindi naman mga tao rito kung Filipino ka or what. Basta alam nila, you're Asian class. Ganang galing yung virus nyo. Di ba?
Oo, yung nagsisigaw. Sabi nga ni MJ Racadio, perhaps a hotline, Congen. Tsaka perhaps PSA dedicated to Filipinos and Tagalog speakers.
Actually, when immediately after I came in, and na-brief na ako dun sa search, we activated the hotline. So may hotline yung consulate for people to be able to call. So nandun yan eh. And there are other ways for people to get in touch with us. So phone numbers, nandun yung email, yung mga social media accounts natin. So yun yung ginawa natin as part of our efforts to address the issue. And we've been doing online webinars. We've been doing webinars with the Filipino community on Asian hate in partnership with other organizations. So may mga steps tayong ginagawa kasi parang dito yung epicenter ng mga Asian hate crimes eh. It's New York.
True. That is so true.
They just need
Compared
someone to blame
Jersey,
eh. Kaya
another
ayan
tri-state.
Unfortunately, reason eh.
Pero okay, Conjen, na-mention mo kanina about passport. May nag-ask dito yung about passport, sino? Wait lang ha. Asan na ba yung, may nag-ask dito about sa passport eh. Ayun. Ay, si MJ na naman. Hi, MJ. We'll see you in a few weeks. Okay. Do you need a passport to travel in the Philippines now, even having dual citizenship? Yeah, Conjen nga pala. I heard daw na we cannot use because I'm a dual citizen. So I can't use my Filipino passport anymore to go home?
Bakit?
I don't know.
You could go even with that dual certification. We issue this piece of paper for you to be able to go home. But right now, the IATF just made an announcement that balikbayans, so former Filipinos, can now travel back to the Philippines. Nagkaroon lang kami nung surge in dual citizenship applications because at certain points in the past year when we had the pandemic, we only allow Filipinos to go home. So maraming nag-apply to be dual citizens, more than what they used to receive. So, but now with the new guidelines, you could go home as former kahit US citizens kayo, pwede.
So open na, sir, like Filipinos.
So we do expect a decline in the number of dual citizenship applications. Now that you've discussed passports also, alam natin yung issue rito sa New York and in the rest of the United States, yung bakit matagal yung appointments, hindi sila
Yes.
Yes po, may mga tanong po ang mga kaibigan ko. Yan ang same na
Oo,
tanong
ang
po.
dami-dami nag-a-ask.
Diba? Dahil nga, bakit July pa? Bakit?
Na-approve na, bakit wala pang interview, isang
Yeah,
taon
bakit po
na.
ganon?
Oo,
Bakit
oo.
po ganon?
Bakit hindi sumasagot sa phones? Ang daming mga complaints, diba? But let me explain. The reason why we could only accommodate a certain number is because of COVID restrictions. May
Oh, okay.
limitations on how many people can actually occupy a building, and most people were required to work from home. So, nakita namin yan. So, I asked when I came in, how can we increase our capacity, diba? So, in the past several weeks, we reviewed the system para makita namin paano kami makakapag-accommodate ng mas maraming kababayan. And beginning May 1, we started accommodating more, and we announced that during our Filipino Community General Assembly, so we announced that we now could take more passport applicants. We added 200 slots per month, and dual citizenship also, application for consularization. Talagang mas marami yung kaya ngayon. Then, yung most important, we gave a window for those with emergency cases to reach us. Kasi I think yung complaints are mostly from those who need to go home urgently. Yung namatayan sila, di ba?
Yes.
Of course, you need to know how kababayan who recently lost loved ones are feeling. Di ba? Yung parang, sabi ko, sa mga kasama natin dito, we need to know how they feel. Ikaw, kung tayo namatay, paano ba natin gusto ma-resolve yung issue? So, if we have kababayan with such emergency cases, may death in the family, medical emergencies, etc., all they have to do is email us and
Oh, wow.
and say, no, I have an emergency, ito yung proof, di ba? Or I lost someone, and we will do it the same day. We did this for a kababayan in Connecticut who lost her son in a motorcycle accident. So we processed her dual citizenship application in a matter of hours to allow her to go home to bury her son. We had a kababayan from Washington State who also needed to go home to bury his mom. But puno yung mga appointment slots sa San Francisco and LA, and he flew to New York, and we issued the. I personally swore him in as a Filipino, and he's now in the Philippines. So, yung mga cases na ganyan, mga humanitarian cases, we have, we will immediately approve those. But of course, syempre, dapat sigurado tayo dyan. Alam mo naman yung
Na
mga
sure, oo.
minsan, your shortcut, and even appointments. We release appointment slots regularly, and even with this additional capacity, we think ma-accommodate natin yung mga kababayan natin. So, kung minsan, alam mo naman tayo, di ba? Mag-attempt lang na minsan, check yung website, ay, walang slots. Tapos na, magko-complain na.
Tapos
Wala.
complain na. Oo, complain na.
So, some of you need to be patient. I had a visitor here earlier before our session tonight, and he was saying he tried once, wala, and after a few minutes he tried again, and he was able to get an appointment. So we just need to be patient. We have very limited personnel and resources to be able to do everything at once. Siyempre, mas gusto namin talaga kung pwede nga lang, kung mag-apply ka ngayon, same time, makuha mo yung yung
Exactly.
appointment.
Oo.
Yeah, but we cannot. We have, as I've said, a limited number of personnel, and there are complaints about us not answering phone calls. This situation is not unique to the consulate in New York. It happens in any other embassy or consulate of the Philippines or of any other country. So, yung problema lang kasi sa atin, the information that we are asking is actually there. It's available. It's online. Passport requirements, everything's there.
Everything is there, true.
But our mentality, we want to hear a voice. Diba? Kailangan may makausap ka.
Sorry,
Yung
yes.
nakausap mo na, then
PD50,
tatanungin niya ano po yung requirements. So even in Facebook, ako I try to respond. Okay, from the time I was in Iraq, Libya, and even here, if you message me, I will reply. Diba? So yung problema nga lang dyan, yung kung minsan magtatanong, ito may emergency sila, so kailangan na mag-renew ng passport, and I will say yes. Then they'll ask, ano po yung requirements? So parang it's so
Please
difficult
refer to.
for you to, no, di ba?
Oo.
Cut and paste ka, di ba? Parang, so I sometimes have to say, well, I'm sorry if I have to do it, na parang the information is available online. Kaya naman, search, we need to teach our people na, tulungan nyo rin naman kami. Kasi if this basic information that you're asking, you want us to spoon feed you, it's gonna take time, di ba? From our efforts to attend to other kababayan who may have emergency cases. So most of the information is actually there online. But we still would reply, of course. Diba? Our consuls and vice consuls here would also reply to messages, comments on Facebook. And no, because we want to be able to communicate this to our kababayan. Alam nila na nandito kami. But as I've said, limited resources, limited personnel. If we answer phone calls, wala nang magpo-process ng mga passports or mga dual citizens.
Oo, patay. Oo, lack of.
Yung phone di ba? So the solution here is a call center, of course, but unfortunately we still don't have the resources to have a call center that would, answer phone calls. Kahit ako gusto ko nga pag may tumawag, may option. If you want to talk to a consular officer in Ilocano, in Kapampangan, in Cebuano, etc., may option ka dapat.
May options, oo, kaso kulang, no?
Oo. Kasi yung makababayan natin dyan. Diba?
Conjen, I have a question. Importante to ha, because a couple of people has been asking me before, and even actually a few days ago when they saw the poster that we posted. What about those people, Filipino people, who is not how do you say it? What's the right term for that? Is illegal, undocumented. So I'm sure most of them are scared. Diba? Kasi they need the passport. Even if they're not legal here, they need the passport to show. Diba? Sa mga,
okay. For asking that question,
Okay.
Yun yung assessment namin. Diba? This came out when we were discussing Asian hate. Bakit hindi nagre-report yung iba? So most likely, yung status nila is undocumented or out of status sila. Diba? So parang pag nag-report ako sa NYPD, baka nag-report ako sa immigration.
Pulihin sila, ganyan, no? Diba?
Pulihin sila, diba? Kung mag-report naman ako sa consulate, mag-renew ako ng passport, malalaman nilang out of status ako, baka i-report rin nila ako.
Yeah.
But this kind of mentality has been there decades back, diba? Yun nga, yung I don't know why people have this misplaced perception na pag pumunta sa embassy, lumapit, kami mismo yung mag-turn in.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way. So, one, on Asian hate, NYPD assured us several times that if undocumented Filipinos report cases to them, they really don't care what your status is. They would look at you as a victim, diba? Hindi nila tatanong ano status mo. So, that alone is assurance enough for kababayan who are victims of hate crimes to report to authorities para matulungan sila, para maturo sa kanila anong resources na meron ang city government of New York or even the state government to address their specific concerns. And then sa consulate naman, di ba? Yung focus natin actually, yung gusto natin bigyan ng attention are undocumented kababayan. Diba? So doon kami pumapasok. And we'd like to assure them na we're here for them. Diba? Yung mga Filipino-Americans na okay na yung buhay, okay na yan, di ba? Konti lang yung problema involving them that we need to address. But itong mga undocumented, and even documented Filipinos who are still Filipino citizens, they are our responsibility. So we really need to look after them. And in fact, I remember when I was still here in 2003 to 2010, may controversy, and the consulate was being criticized for its failure, or maybe the perceived lack of action dun sa repatriation ng remains ng mga undocumented nating mga kababayan.
Yeah.
Diba? But that was decades ago. We have progressed a lot in terms of yung response mechanisms natin sa mga nationals in distress. No, the Philippine government has always recognized the important contribution of Filipinos here in the United States to our economic transformation. And that's why it allocated a lot of resources for us to be able to assist them in case needed. So take a look at what happened the past year, where we have to spend millions, hundreds of millions of pesos, even billions, to be able to bring home mga kababayan natin who were stranded overseas, na walang pamasahe para makauwi, na walang ng trabaho because of COVID, and walang means para makabalik sila sa Pilipinas. The Philippine government paid for their repatriation. Diba? Compare that with other countries, Western countries, who really would not, bahala ka sa sarili mo, ganun yung attitude ng iba. Diba? And even if they repatriate you, sisingilin ka nila. You would receive a statement sa mail.
After?
Yeah, that's other country.
Oh, okay, but at least in the Philippines, okay, good.
So this is something na siguro hindi alam ng marami sa ating kababayan, lalong-lalo na dito sa US, because kukunti lang naman yung nare-repatriate natin dito, but we do that. But in the Middle East, di ba, talagang feel ng mga kababayan natin yung response ng ating government in their situation. In Libya, for instance, we were able to bring home 300 Filipinos. In June of last year, we sent a plane to repatriate Filipinos from Algeria, Tunisia, and Libya. So, nandiyan yung mga resources na yan. We didn't have those before. And I've served several administrations, and this administration has allocated a lot of resources for us to be able to assist our kababayan here in the United States and in other parts of the world. So, kung may undocumented tayong kababayan dito na hospitalized, we could respond if they need assistance.
Yun na nga, sir. I wanna ask you that. Yeah, let's say mga undocumented na wala talaga.
1 billion pesos was allocated to the Department of Foreign Affairs precisely to assist distressed Filipino nationals. So, kung may kababayan tayo rito na documented, gusto na umuwi, then we'll request Manila for approval sa funding. Lahat naman ng gastos kasi we have to request clearance muna eh. Ma-approve naman yan, lalo na kung undocumented and they have no means to go home. So yun yung sabi kong hindi siguro alam pa ng ating mga kababayan dito. No? Kaya importante yung information dissemination. You'll expect the consulate in the next few weeks to be more active in social media. And like what I did in Iraq and in Libya, we just created the kapulungan ng Filipino sa New York that would serve as our private chat group, where concerns such as the ones that you raised could be discussed between us outside of a public setting. Kasi kumisa pag i-discuss mo yan sa labas, ang daming ibang lahi nakikipaghalo. Ginugulo yung discussions. But we've created this new social media platform using Facebook to allow us to interact on a more regular basis. Kasi nakita ko parang kulang yung interaction between us especially on a lot of issues na ginagawa na pala namin, hindi alam ng mga kababayan natin. So, example, yung nasabi ko ng adjustments that we made in terms of delivering consular services to our people. In addition to what I told you, we have opened the slots 2 Saturdays a month for Servicio Sabado sa Konsulado to allow us to accommodate more kababayan. 2 weeks ago, we did this and we focus on the elderly, persons with disability, and others. And this coming Saturday, we are dedicating that particular consular service to our frontliners, nurses, doctors, etc., who would need assistance. And alam mo naman dito, di ba? Pag nag-off ka, malaki mawawala sa'yo. So we put that into consideration as well. So sabi natin, let's open on Saturdays. Like maybe this is the only time our nurses could go to us without, having to take time off work. So yun yung gusto natin mangyari. And of course, we've also been telling our people we need feedback. So we need them to tell us what they want us to do, where we could improve. So good or bad, we need to know. So, kung hindi namin we cannot be detached. We need to hear from our people. So as long as naman your objective is to improve services, of course, to do things better, then that would be most welcome.
Content, I have another question. Because I have some few friends from years ago and even like a couple of years ago that, let's say, whenever they have a problem, let's say, with their status, for example, they were denied, let's say, twice or three times. Let's say one person is a nurse, another person is, I forgot their jobs, but they were denied, but they were pleading, like for another, for another case. Do you think the Philippine embassy can help them? Can they seek help? Can they ask you guys to help them?
Deny namin o deny ng
na-deny ng US embassy, and then can they ask for help, or
we
no?
cannot intervene there. The same way that they can tell us what to do. Ganito yun. Like a few weeks ago, I got a message from a friend of mine who said, "Oh, now you're Consul General. Can you help me get a visa for my sister?" So sabi ko, we cannot do that. Diba? We cannot tell the U.S. Embassy who to give a visa to. Diba? The same way they cannot tell me to give a visa to this person. We have to respect yung natin dyan.
You cannot.
Diba? And sabi ko, and believe it or not, I tried before. I wrote a letter on behalf of my brother twice, telling the embassy that he'll be staying with me. And my brother was denied twice, despite that letter. So it doesn't matter.
Okay. So alam nyo na. Okay.
Diba? We cannot do that. Now, if you're asking for, can you help us with passports? Okay lang, diba?
Yes.
But please don't look at us as parang passport. Parang sabi ko nga, minsan parang mukha pa akong passport. Diba?
Pero
Tanungan ng passport.
tanong ng passport si Conjen.
Nakita ako, parang, am I a walking passport?
Ayan yung may passport. Kuha tayong passport dyan.
Gawin tayo ng paraan para makakuha tayo ng passport. Sabi ko nga sa mga kasama ko rito, di ba, parang ang daming requests for passport. So that's fine, di ba? But we have to classify which is urgent, what's very urgent, or ayaw lang pumila to, or ano. So may na kami dyan, di ba? Kung tansya namin, ayaw lang pumila, okay, schedule natin. Bigyan natin ng schedule. Diba? So hindi naman urgent to. So pwedeng in 3 weeks. O ano yung mga very urgent? O say next week yan. Extremely urgent, okay, ngayon yan. Kwento ko yung mga there were times when, I would get messages asking for help in passport renewals. So when I scrolled up, I said, the last time he messaged me was 5 years ago. Also for a passport renewal. So, in between, walang, hi Elmer, how are you?
Wala man na kumustahan. In between.
Diretso. Okay.
Baka na ba akong passport na...
Passport ATM. Oo.
Kulang ba ako dahil sa passport?
Ginagamit ko.
Alam mo bang galing ako sa Iraq, nakapunta na ako na Libya, nakabalik. And now, siguro happy rin ako, 10 years na lang ngayon, di ba? Yung validity period ng passport, it's 10 years.
10 years.
10 years ko na lang siya.
Maririnig.
Oo. Expect from him again after 10 years.
After 10 years.
Oo, di ba?
Hindi ko naman tiniturn. When they ask help, I really would help.
Of course, extend your help
Pero
you.
yung dilemma natin ngayon. So we know people who are in California, for instance, and of course we have two consulates there and asking me for help in getting accommodated. So ina-assess ko kasi I don't want to add to the burden ng ating konsulado doon. Kasi talagang mas marami yung mga Filipino doon. More than 1 million yung mga kababayan natin. They really are overwhelmed. So
For
ayoko
sure.
kung tatawag ka sa akin, pwede ba ako isingit mo ako rito? Siyempre, nahihiya rin ako sa fellow Consul General ko doon, di ba? Parang,
Oo.
hindi naman sila nagre-request ng, Elmer, can you accommodate? Wala, ako lang yung nagre-request. So,
Puros
if, if kababayan from out of state would need help, punta kayo rito. Then I could accommodate you same day. Di ba? But,
True.
medyo mahirap yung, and since we're talking about this, siguro kababayan should also plan ahead. Diba? We know what's the problem is in terms of accommodating yung mga passport applicants. So if your passport is expiring within the year, you could start, requesting for an appointment this early. Don't wait for your passport to reach 6 months na lang. Kasi kumisa baka hindi ka napapayagan ng airline mag-board because under international rules, your passport should be valid at least 6 months unless, of course, you're going back to the Philippines. So kung 1 year pa yung validity, mag-request na kayo ng schedule this early. And then you also have to anticipate yung time. Unlike before where we could do the passports here in the United States, here in New York, we do it manually before. Now we have to print the passports in a central location in the Philippines. So it would take you from 4 to 6 weeks before the new passport.
Ganun talaga katagal.
So kailangan, we cannot sabihin nyo, pwede mo paki-expedite, makuha ko next week. Hindi mangyayari yun, di ba? Mahirap. Especially with COVID, medyo na-reduce yung capacity natin sa Pilipinas. As you know, we've had colleagues in the Office of Consular Affairs, which oversees passports operations, who tested positive, and we even have some who died. So kaya, we have to plan ahead. So para maiwasan natin yung stress, di ba, na parang, bakit ang hirap, nagagalit sila, kung ano-anong pinopost, di ba? So, we appeal to our kababayan for their kind patience and understanding when it comes to matters like this. But, if we plan ahead, we could avoid such stressful situations.
Okay. Pero ito naman, speaking of, kanina na-mention mo about yung mga, meron kayong plano mga activities, no? Siyempre, known ang Philippine Embassy, especially in New York, na to have they usually have a lot of activities, di ba? So,
Marami pa?
I mean, we used to be. As in like, madalas may nare-receive ako mga invitations or nakikita sa mga Facebook, sa social media. What about now na, tapos na, hindi man, it's not, COVID, it's still here, but it's slowly opening. So,
Pa-open na ng
virtual pa rin ba? Or,
19 yata eh.
yes.
Yung when I was first offered New York, I must confess I was hesitant. Sabi ko parang, I was being told na, most of your time will be spent attending social gatherings of the community. Yung mga induction, yung mga
Fiesta sa New Jersey, fiesta sa Union City, New Jersey.
Fiesta,
Sabi ko,
birthday.
So sabi ko naman, parang hindi ko yata kaya yun. Several times a week, I would have to be attending these events na sometimes would take you several hours. I'm sure, like say, kung mga anniversary ng mga organization siya, diba? Ang dami mo na
nun.
gagawin yan. Tapos, ikaw yung re-reserve nila bandang huli to be the speaker or to induct them. Parang, medyo na ako doon, parang hindi ko yata kaya yung ganun na several nights a week, sometimes twice in one day or 3 times, ilan yung pupuntahan mo, di ba? So, then I realized because of COVID, medyo na-limit, nabawasan, wala yung in-person interactions. Wala mo problema dun sa in-person, But, yung problema, it would take so much of your time. Feeling ko na I could use that time to do more productive, di ba? Activity. So, gagawin 4 hours, tapos manunod lang ako, sasayaw-sayaw lang sila. Tapos,
Totoo yan. At least
sasalita
gusto ko si
ako.
Conjen, nagpapakatotoo.
Oo nga. Panoorin niyo po kami ni Jessie.
Oo.
Yun, sasayaw, tapos pag magsasalita ka na, pagod na sila, hindi na sila nakikinig, di ba?
Yeah, they're all drunk.
Parang nahirapan kang gumawa ng remarks. So that's why I was telling colleagues here, when we prepare remarks, let's try to keep them short. So mahaba na yung 5 minutes. We just go straight to the point. And then if pwede, I should be in the first part of the program.
Yes.
Para mabilis na. Kasi ang daming trabaho eh. Diba? Ang daming trabaho. So, I was talking to a visitor early and I was telling them nga na, compared to going to one of the hotels, ballrooms, and doing those activities, so, mas gusto kong yayain nyo ako sa maliit na birthday party na kung 10 lang tayo, mag-usap-usap tayo to discuss issues, di ba? Mga concerns nyo. Mas gusto ko yung maliliit na...
Yung intimate at saka
sa birthday ni
makakausap.
J-Cas. Birthday ko.
So, I was telling nga, yung kausap ko kanina, sabi ko, I was a student activist when I was in college. So and I was a journalist too. So, sanay ako makipag-usap sa mga sinasabi niya mga ordinary. So, kami mga ordinary Filipinos rito, sabi ko, yung impression natin sa mga embassies natin. So when you invite people to attend receptions or it's yung mga influential lang na mga bigatin na tao na, di ba? Yung mga Pilipino occupying, yung mga mayayaman na. Sabi ko, I want to change that perception. I don't want to see the same faces all the time attending our receptions. We need to reach out. And karamihan sa mga Pilipino sa area of jurisdiction natin are what my visitor described as ordinary Filipinos. Teachers, caregivers, restaurant workers. I need to talk to them as well. So instead of wasting 4 hours, di ba? Maybe I could have 3 hours to spend with them. Maybe in Little Manila and Woodside, kahit magkape ka lang doon. Di ba? Yun yung gusto ko sa mangyari. I want the consulate to go to them. Di ba? Hindi sila yung pupunta sa amin. Di ba? I want to go out.
Wow.
At kailangan ma-feel mo yung ground eh. So ano yung problema ng mga caregivers natin? Anong problema ng mga nurses natin? May mga problema ba sila? Baka may problema sila, hindi natin alam. Kasi hesitant sila. Di ba? So, kung ma-feel nila talaga na the consulate is here for them. So if I need to go out, and like what we're doing now, di ba, for the past 4 weeks, we're trying to support small Filipino businesses. So we make it a point to go out and have lunch in a small Filipino restaurant. So it's our way of supporting, and we use social media to promote them as well. So yung sa mga Facebook posts ko nga, yung mga kababayan natin, even from outside the United States, are saying, "Uy, mukhang masarap yan." They want to go. Those from out of state, from Virginia Beach, we're saying, pagpunta namin yan, pupunta kami dyan sa mga restaurants na sinabi mo dahil mukhang mas masarap yung mga pinipresent nila dyan. So that's what we want to do. And, we want the community to work hand in hand with us. And as I said, the past few weeks was spent meeting many of them virtually. And I've seen yung dedication nila, yung commitment nila to serving our people. So if we could bring everyone together, then that would really be good. We could help a lot of people, not just Filipino Americans here who need our help, but also our kababayan back home. So ang dami natin pwedeng gawin together.
Naku.
That's
Ano
good,
pala? Parang, ano ba yung Tagalog?
Congen for the people.
Congen for the people.
Congen
makamasa,
so pagkakain tayo,
makatao.
kakain tayo sa restaurant, mga 5 to 10 tayo, libre nyo. Ganyan.
Oo, ganon. Sabi ni Congen na. Pero Congen, okay.
Yung may tusok-tusok, yung may fishball, yung sarap.
Oh my God.
Oo, meron dito ngayon parang ganyan pinapauso nila.
I was in, a few days after I got in, we were in Woodside, so nakita ko yung nagtitinda ng taho. Tagal ko na hindi kumakain ng taho. Wala sa di ba? So, madami tayong pwedeng dito. And
magawa, no?
we're preparing for Filipino Restaurant Week in a And, yung Consulate,
Live, of course, it's live, right?
the Filipino Restaurant Week.
I mean, I thought like you will have it in. Okay, oh, so Filipino Restaurant Week, like
But
just like
it
New York
has,
Restaurant Week.
nag-a-adjust na, di ba? So restrictions
Yes.
are released. So we were looking at more in-person interactions in the coming months. So yeah, we want to revive that Inuman Pulutan project that was initiated years ago, and we want to have more artists exhibiting their works at the lobby. We want the designers, Filipino designers here and in the Philippines to start coming back so we could do mga fashion shows na ginagawa dati and other
Okay.
activities para we could slowly start to normalize.
Wow,
That's
so
good
to
news,
hear.
no?
And of course, Conjen, if you need our help,
Of course.
over a glass or two are always here for you guys.
Yes.
Of course.
Oy,
Pero,
pero-
yung mga
Con-
balot. Dako,
Ayan.
if you need balot, may mga balot festival.
Marami kaming,
and
may
all.
kilala kaming pagkukunan
May mga
ng
friends kaming mga ganon.
basket yan. Pero, Consul, gusto namin makilala ka ng konti yung the other side mo. Sabi mo kanina pa parang mahirap yung mga
Tapos na yan,
Pinoy.
1 hour 30 na tayo. Tara
Oo nga, 1 hour 30 na,
Oo.
tapos na to. Pero ito, actually gusto ko tong tinanong ni MJ. We're about to ask this, but tinanong niya
Oo nga yan.
What are your hobbies? Mabilis lang, Conjen.
On your off
3
time,
fun
sir.
facts about you.
Yes.
Mabilis lang. 3 fun facts about you.
Fun?
Yes.
When I was here, I used to play war games. I missed that. I had this group of Filipino and Filipino Americans when I was younger. So mahilig ako sa war games. If you don't know,
Oh.
I'm a lieutenant colonel in the Philippine Army Reserve. I'm a reserve officer. So mahilig na
wow.
ako. Simula nung bata ako, di ba? Mahilig na ako dyan sa baril and also since hindi na ako bata, hindi na ako makatakbo para maglaro ng war game, so maybe I'll shift to practical shooting with my team. I would like
First
to,
yan. Second naman.
I would like to. Hindi ako fun person. I'm dull and boring.
You
So,
are? Hindi naman.
Oh, hindi.
I love it.
We love listening to you. You're a great storyteller.
I know.
Hindi ako umiinom, di ba?
Oh,
I know.
It's okay.
No, there's a lot of people who don't need to drink to be fun and to be
Yes, exactly.
interesting.
Yung gusto ko here, that's on my spare time, what I was planning to do before I got to New York. Sabi ko, okay, I'll have time to, do practical shooting with my friends, write my books, works in progress lahat yan, di ba? So there are several, as I've said, maybe going to try to learn more about filmmaking. Gusto ko maging director eh.
Oh, that's good. Wow.
We need to share stories, especially yung frustration ko actually ngayon is yung parang lack of nationalism, especially sa mga kabataan. Medyo nakakalungkot, yung parang, because I grew up and during a time na medyo intense pa yung nationalism ng mga tao. I remember when I was young, I would go home from school and watch TV in the afternoon. So, yung makikita ko sa TV na black and white, are war movies, Filipino war movies about World War II, and you would see how Filipino guerrillas would defeat yung invaders ba. And of course, some of them would even die. So, nakapako sa akin yung ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo, ba? So yung nakakalungkot nga na, bakit parang wala nang masyadong di ba? Parang pag nangyari ba, nilusob yung Pilipinas, we get invaded, how many of our people would actually fight the way we did in Bataan in World War II, di ba? So ano yung gagawin na? So maybe we should write books, we should tell stories of valor involving our ancestors.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe, bakit wala na movies na ganito? Yung Marawi, for instance, our victory in Marawi, for instance, asan na yung movies dyan? Bakit wala tayong movie defeated ISIS? Bakit wala? Diba? Asan yung movies about Bataan? So even here, when I attended the Bataan, uh, the Araw ng Kagitingan anniversary last month in Cherry Hill, sabi ko, there was a marker there on the death march. But sabi ko, bakit wala tayo? At least mga statues man lang na to show the shared sacrifice of Filipinos and Americans. Kasi very visual yung ano dapat dyan eh. You should convey the story in such a manner. Kasi it's not just a slab of marble na nandyan tapos babasahin. So at least kung may naglalakad na, makita yung, Filipinos and Americans fighting. Yung, if you've been to Bataan, there's this monument in Layak Junction of Philippine Scouts and Americans. Yung in the act of fighting. So it's something that pwede natin gawin dito eh. Di ba? Instead of sabi ko wag yung death march na naglalakad sila. Sabi ko that's very defeatist. Pakita natin yung lumalaban pa sila. Para at least even our American friends would realize na and appreciate, di ba? Na may contribution rin sa kanila. Yun yung napansin kong kulang eh. Na we have not been able to share our stories with them. So, as you've said, I'm a storyteller and I'd want to be able to share the Philippine story in various mediums. So, pwedeng through books, pwedeng, yung mga documentaries, and even movies.
Naku. Sabi nga ni MJ Racadio, there's a film about World War directed by Diane Paragas about USA FFE very soon. Actually, sir, you should, since you live in New York right now, there's a lot of schools there for New York Film Academy. Yes. And also, sir, Diane Paragas actually... Ano pa?
MJ is what?
MJ Racadio actually is a Hollywood parang blogger, blog talk Hollywood.
Yeah,
so
West Coast
actually he's coming here next in 2 weeks. He's staying with me and he's staying in New York for 2 days. Yes.
Let's have coffee.
Yes, let's have coffee. I was about to, yes.
You like he or she?
He. Yes.
So MJ was
Pagdating
mentioning.
mo MJ.
Good. Kasi nga, yun lang yung ano natin eh. Yun lang yung best way to share our story with our local hosts for Americans. So yung kwento ng Bataan na nga lang eh. Imagine mo, di ba? How many Americans do you think would know about Bataan? You ask any ordinary American, they would not even know what Bataan is. Yung mga siguro nasa US Navy would know it's a US naval vessel or a street in Washington, D.C. But, hindi alam. Wala na. So how can we generate support for the Philippines when our American friends are not even aware that we were the only US colony in history, di ba?
True.
Hindi nila alam yan. So marami silang, in fact, when I was in Washington, I accompanied Ambassador Quisha to the U.S. Congress and we met several senators. And one senator asked us, do you have many coconuts in the Philippines? Diba? So a lot.
Yun lang yung alam.
Yun lang yung alam nila.
Naku, Jessie, naamoy ko na. Bago pa lumabas yung future documentary at movie na direct ni Conjen magpapa-film festival na siya ng mga history ng Filipino dubbed in English. Film, di ba? Para ma-promote ang history of the Philippines.
Okay, this morning we had a meeting with some other kababayan and we were discussing, Noli Me Tangere and El Filibus Turismo. So, there was an opera in New York before, right? So sabi na, why don't we popularize it? Di ba pwedeng i-animate yung Noli Me Tangere para mas marami yung panood.
Para maging mainstream, di ba?
Di ba?
Ang taba ng utak ni Conjen.
Nako, Conjen, you will be a good producer and director. I can tell.
Very creative. Oh, wow,
Nako, so Conjen, teka, magti 2 hours
nako.
na pala.
Oh
yung
my
mga
God.
staff mo dyan, wag magsasakalin kami. Tagal nyo. Kailangan na namin mag-dinner.
Napasarap yung usapan.
Baka yung iba dyan mag-happy hour pa kasi 5 de Mayo. Oh my God. Maraming salamat,
Thank you
Conjen.
po.
Grabe. Full of insights. At saka maraming salamat for sharing your story. lahat ng mga, actually for explaining everything, like what we should expect, diba? And yung mga things that people are so confused, but the Filipino people
Conjen, kami ni Jessie,
Oo.
tanong namin
Yung mga
Conjen lang ba siya ng New York o na ibang states? Nasagot, 10 pala in the East Coast. There
Exactly,
you go. I'm
mga
sure
things like that.
maraming hindi may alam yan.
especially sa passport, yung mga Filipinos. Maraming salamat, Conjen. This is one of our very insightful interview. Maraming
Yes.
salamat. Conjen, would you like to give them your your final message to everyone?
Yes.
Bago tayo magpaalam at medyo nagugutom na tayo.
Yes.
I only had 2 hot dogs for lunch. So,
Oh, God.
anyway,
Gutom
so,
ka na nga. Okay.
gutom na. First of all, thank you to both of you for having me this evening. Alam ko, rush to, di ba? We only met last week. But we're
Yes,
able
yes.
to make this happen. And I'm happy we're able to, as you said, share our insights. One thing I'd like to say, we have many problems. And we could only solve this if we work together. So, what I've been telling our kababayan in our virtual meetings and in-person meetings, that we should not allow our political differences or even personal differences to obstruct or make it difficult for us to help our kababayan here in the United States and in the Philippines, for our country. So regardless of our political colors, could be yellow, red, or whatever, we are Filipinos first and foremost. So dapat yun yung focus natin. What can we do as Filipinos? So I'm hoping in the few years that I'll be spending here with you, we would be able to unite the community, go beyond our differences, and work together in serving our country and our people. Maraming salamat po.
Maraming salamat,
Maraming
Conjen.
salamat.
Thank you so much. OJ Cas, close our show.
Yes,
Gutom
hindi
na
lang
si
mga
Conjen.
Yes, hindi lang mga taga New Yorkers, lahat po ng mga kaogat around the world. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to share this video amongst your friends, and also to please follow us here on Over a Glass or Two in Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and also on Twitch, and also follow us on Over a Glass or Two YouTube channel. Conjen, Consul General Elmer Cato, thank you very much for this very
Maraming
insightful and informative visit.
Yes,
Ayan.
maraming salamat.
Mag-toast po
Maybe we'll see
tayo.
you soon, ha?
Yes, we'll
Okay.
see you
Yes.
personally soon. Yes, mga kaogat, amidst the pandemic, let's still find ways to be happy. Let's all talk about it over a glass or two. Cheers.
Thank you, Conjen.
Thank you, Conjen.
Thank you so much,
We love
guys,
you.
for watching.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Bye, MJ. See you.